We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant not guilty of a lewd act upon a minor child as charged in count 2 of the indictment, dated June 13, 2005, foreperson number 80.
On June 13, 2005, Michael Jackson was fully vindicated after a long, grueling trial. Yet the case was so grossly misreported that the press pushed the narrative that he got away with it, and the allegations are still used to mock, slander, and tarnish his name. This topic is complex and requires extensive research to fully understand, so this video will present the facts that are most often misconstrued in a comprehensible way. Myth: Michael Jackson had random boys sleeping over at Neverland. Fact: Michael invited entire families to stay at his home. Boys, girls, teens, and adults would all gather in his room, which was the size of an apartment. We can infer from footage like this that Michael didn't think of his bedroom as a private space. It was a place to hang out with his guests and sometimes a place to work.
And your brother knew him too?
Yeah, no, we all did. I mean, he was, a family friend.
What happened at the house? That's what all these things that people are concerned about.
That's what's so weird,
What did happen?
Nothing happened, I mean, nothing really. I mean, we played video games, we played it at his amusement park. Well, the thing is with that whole thing is that, they go, oh, you slept in the same bedroom as him. It's like, I don't think you understand. Michael Jackson's bedroom is 2 stories. And it has like 3 bathrooms and this and that. So when I slept in his bedroom, yeah, but you have to understand the whole scenario. And the thing is with Michael is that he's not very good at explaining himself, and he never really has been, because he's not a very social person. I mean, you're talking about someone who's been sheltered and sheltering himself also for the last 30 years, or and so he's not very good at communicating to people and not very good at conveying what he's actually trying to say to you. And so when he says something like that, people, he doesn't quite understand why people react the way that they do.
Did other people sometimes stay in the room with you?
Of course. It wasn't the door is closed, no one can come in.
So who else would be there?
His cousins were around, friends were around, my sister was there.
We shot for a year, and I was 10, 11 in that time frame, and then I also continued to be friends with him for about a decade.
So you've been here?
I have. I came here 3 times. The first time I came, I was probably about 12, and the last time I was probably about 18, 19.
And how do you feel about this place coming back here? Did you have good memories of it, or after all the stories about Michael, how do you feel being back here?
Oh, I have nothing but amazing memories from the entire time that I knew him and was friends with him. I can't say enough good things. He just had this unconditional love. He was so pure. And I just have so many great memories.
Myth: Jordan Chandler accurately described Michael Jackson's genitalia. Fact: After carrying out a strip search, the police found that the boy's description did not match the photos of Michael's body.
I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life, one that no person should ever have to suffer.
Jordan Chandler claimed that Michael was circumcised, but the police found this to be false, which was later confirmed in Jackson's autopsy. Had the boy's description matched the police photographs, Michael would have been arrested, as that would have been corroborative evidence of molestation. Myth: The settlement was hush money. Fact: Evan Chandler was demanding money from Michael before anything was reported to the police, but Michael refused to pay. Evan Chandler communicated to ex-wife June that he was going to make allegations against Jackson in May of 1993. Jordan Chandler's stepfather, David Schwartz, recorded the following conversation between Chandler and himself that July.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record.
This attorney I found, I interviewed several, and I picked the nastiest son of a bitch I could find. once I make that phone call, this guy is just going to destroy everybody in sight. Any devious, nasty, cruel way that he can do it. And I've given him full authority to do that. It'll be a massacre if I don't get what I want.
If I go through with this, I win big time.
I will get everything I want, and they will be destroyed forever. They will be destroyed. June is going to lose Jordy. She will have no right to ever see him again.
Yeah.
That's a fact, Dave. That's what's
Does that help?
Michael's career will be over.
Does that help Jordy?
Michael's career will be over.
And does that help Jordy?
That's irrelevant to me.
It was during this time frame that the police first interviewed the boy, and he denied any wrongdoing on Michael's part. Evan managed to obtain custody of Jordan for 7 days, but he refused to give him back to June after the week had passed. While he was in his father's custody, Jordan suddenly changed his story. He claimed that he was molested by Jackson, but only after Evan sedated him with sodium amytal. This is a drug that makes people highly suggestible. While Evan Chandler could have reported the alleged abuse to the police, he went to Jackson's legal team first. He demanded $20 million to make a movie as he was an aspiring screenwriter. Otherwise, he would make the allegations public. Michael refused to pay, which led to continued negotiations between his and Chandler's lawyers. If Michael were guilty, why didn't he just pay to keep Evan quiet in the first place? Meanwhile, Evan was long overdue to return Jordan to his mother, as roughly a month had passed at this point. Evan was ordered by a judge to return his son to June immediately. So in order to maintain custody, he had Jordan disclose the allegation to a psychiatrist. This kickstarted a criminal investigation.
So the judge in October of 1993 orders depositions. Now, a deposition is where you are forced to state your case, to give your evidence under oath. It can be done in court, or it can be done under oath elsewhere and audio taped or videotaped. Now, he orders that Michael Jackson is to be deposed by January. The problem with this is that if you have a civil case which comes before the criminal case, and you are forced to give away your defense, then what that does, it gives the prosecutors a front row seat for your defense. They can then go away and tailor their criminal case to circumvent your defense case. Now, from October 93 to January 94, Michael's defense goes back to court 4 different times and argues to the judge, we need the civil case delayed so that it doesn't precede the criminal case, because this is unconstitutional. If you force our client to give away his defense, then you're denying him his constitutional right to a fair criminal trial.
When the judge is not ruling in your favor, that tells an attorney, maybe we need to settle this because he's not ruling in our favor right now.
And so on the eve of, literally the night before, he would have been forced to give away his defense under oath. The civil settlement is reached. The civil case is settled.
The civil settlement had no impact on the criminal case, which Chandler's lawyer made clear himself.
Has Michael Jackson bought your client's silence?
I am not going to have anything to do with talking about the terms of the settlement, and nobody's bought anyone's silence.
A civil case is only about money. If they, and I tell people this too, we're in a state where they could have went after him criminally and came back after the money. All they wanted, a lot of people think because he settled the civil case that voided the criminal. That's not true. It did not void the criminal. The reason they never came after him criminally in '93 because they couldn't find any corroborating evidence to agree with Jordy Chandler's story.
Myth. LaToya Jackson accused Michael of being a pedophile. Fact. LaToya said this under duress because of her abusive ex-husband.
In her early 30s, LaToya veered away from Michael into treacherous waters. She married her manager, Jack Gordon, 20 years older, and a convicted felon, who she says took control of her life, moving her away from her brother's influence. LaToya says Gordon took everything, her passport, her bank account, and then he beat her regularly.
He promised if I did anything out of the ordinary, that he would kill me. And he took it a step further. He said, and if you don't believe me, I will do it to your brother as well. And I believed him. I had no reason not to.
And he promised me if I didn't do what he said, he promised me he would kill my brother. And that's what he was holding against me constantly. You better say this, you better do this, or he's dead. And I knew that it was true, he would do it. And the reason I knew that is because in New York, when I lived there, we didn't live on Mulberry Street, but when I say live here,
Yeah.
we were always on Mulberry Street. He was friends with all those guys. I knew John Gotti. I knew them all.
Yeah.
I knew every last one of those mafia guys. And I knew that he would do that because I had seen things.
And these kids are going to be scarred for the rest of their life.
During the time of your marriage, you accused Michael of being a pedophile.
Yes. But I cannot, and I will not, be a silent collaborator of his crimes. Gordon gave me this piece of paper and he says, read this. He goes, you better say this, you say this.
Jack Gordon forced you to say that your brother was a pedophile. Did you think he was?
No, I did not.
LaToya later retracted her statements and supported her brother during the trial. Myth: Michael Jackson owned child porn. Fact: possession of child porn is a felony in itself and would have resulted in an arrest and additional charges. While Michael did have a collection of pornographic materials, none of them contained underage children.
When they raided Neverland, and again, it was 70-plus sheriffs raided Neverland, they found hordes of Playboy, Penthouse, and what I call girly magazines.
Right.
And they didn't know how to explain this because they knew this could help the defense in explaining he's not a pedophile. He's not someone who's enraptured with young males. He's a heterosexual male who likes to look at beautiful women who are naked.
Michael received so many books and magazines from all over the world. And a lot of the so-called Playboy magazines were magazines that he received from others, not that he went out and bought them. And so he had a huge library of all sorts of books, classical to children's books. I mean, he had a library that was bigger than a public library.
There were 2 books found in Michael's home that some argue to be indicative of his guilt, but these are legal art books that can be found in the Library of Congress. There was an inscription in the flyleaf of one of the books which indicated that Michael didn't even purchase it himself, but it was gifted to him by a fan.
People know my love for children, so they send me books from all over the world, from South America, from Germany, from Italy, from Sweden.
So if people say that they found those things, if there's an indication, let them come forward, let them produce them, right?
Yeah, because I get all you wouldn't believe the amounts of mail that I get. And if you say to somebody, you know, if I let the fans know I love Charlie Chaplin, I'll be swarmed in Charlie Chaplin paraphernalia. But if I say I love children, which I do, they swarm me with everything pertaining to kids.
Myth: Michael bought gifts for his accusers as a grooming tactic. Fact: Michael bought gifts for people of all ages and was taught to hand things down to young fans from his idols.
I would go to Neverland and I would say I like something, he would give it to me. And I said, Michael, I like that big screen TV. He's like, you like it, Chris? I said, yeah, I like it. He said, do you love it? I said, I love it. Next day I go home, Michael would send the TV to my house. I said, Michael, thank you. Wow. But I was like, Michael is nice and rich.
Because when I was little, stars like Sammy Davis, Fred Astaire, you know, Gene Kelly, if I admired something they were wearing, if I simply said, God, I love that shirt you're wearing, they would give it to me. So I was taught that, you know, that's part of a show business trait, you know, to hand it over.
Myth: Michael had an alarm system in his bedroom to prevent others from witnessing the abuse. Fact: this alarm system was installed for security reasons. It can be heard in this video of Michael with Ryan White.
You're still here and who you are.
Michael recounted several incidents of fans showing up to the gates of his family's Havenhurst home, claiming they could get dangerous. So why wouldn't he take extra precautions to feel safe in his own home? There is even footage of Elizabeth Taylor's wedding being crashed by an intruder at Neverland. During the 2005 trial, star Arvizos claimed that he walked into Michael's bedroom and witnessed his brother Gavin being molested on 2 occasions. How could this have happened if an alarm was going off?
He claimed that it was not audible upstairs because the door at the bottom of the stairway was closed. Jackson's defense team did an alarm test, and the video of it was presented at Jackson's trial as evidence that proved that the sound of the alarm was loud and clearly audible in the upstairs portion of Jackson's bedroom, where the alleged molestation happened.
Myth: all of Michael's accusers slept in the same bed as him. Fact: Michael slept on the floor when the Arvizos spent the night in his room. While Michael did say he'd slept in the same bed as some young guests in the past, this was never the case with the Arvizo brothers.
When you'd have sleepovers and you'd stay in the same room or the same bed, did that seem unusual to you at all?
No, because I slept on one side of the bed, he slept on the other, and that was that.
Brett Barnes was just one of hundreds of children who visited Neverland and denied being abused when questioned by the police. Michael would sometimes sleep in the same bed as adults when he was a child himself, so it wasn't abnormal to him.
Michael used to sleep with me, right? He did that with other kids. To me, that was just the way we came up as young people, as children. We came up going over for sleepovers and stuff.
Would you allow your children to sleep in the bed with a grown man who was not a relative, or to sleep in the bedroom?
Sure. If I know that person, trust them, and love them. That's happened many times with me when I was little.
Now, on to the Arvizos. When Michael talked about sharing his bed in his interviews with Martin Bashir, he meant he'd offer his bed to his guests while he slept on the floor. The Arvizos' mother was present during their visits and aware of this sleeping arrangement.
And so I finally slept on the bed, but it was fun that night.
I slept on the floor. I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor. I gave him the bed because he has a brother named Star, so him and Star took the bed, and I'm on the floor in the sleeping bag.
Did you ever sleep in the bed with them?
No. And I didn't sleep in the bed with the child. Even if I did, it's okay. I slept on the floor. I gave the bed to the child.
Myth. Michael showed his accusers pornography. Fact. Tom Sneddon attempted to falsify evidence by getting his accusers' fingerprints on an adult magazine during the trial.
I believe Tom Sneddon should be serving time in prison, and that's where he should be getting his... He'll have lots of money in his prison account getting his pension, but he should be in prison. You cannot falsify evidence and then just say, oh, we lost the case. No. He had that boy put his fingerprints on the magazine at the grand jury. And the reason we know that, because the alert Tom Mesereau, the defense attorney, got the grand jury transcript. And one of the grand jurors said, shouldn't that boy be wearing gloves? Then after the grand jury, they sent it out for fingerprints analysis. So where did the boy get his fingerprint on the magazine when the boy testified he hadn't even been at Neverland for months when that magazine was published? Yet he claimed that was the magazine Michael Jackson gave him in bed.
It's important to note the inconsistencies in the Arvizos' timeline of alleged abuse.
He began to claim that the young man had been molested right after the Bashir documentary, and then to their horror, we came up with a videotape where the young man and his brothers and mother all praised Michael for being the nicest person they'd ever met. And at that point, the prosecution changed its theory and tried to say the molestation began after that videotape was put together. So it was kind of a two-step process, all of which was completely absurd.
Several Neverland employees stated that Gavin and Star Arvizo exhibited uncouth and even violent behavior during their visits. One witness used the word unbalanced to describe their mother, Janet. So it's no surprise that this family had a history with the law. There was an incident in the late 90s where Gavin was caught stealing from a JCPenney, which led to a physical altercation. Janet and her husband were arrested and charged with burglary, assault, battery, and petty theft. They later filed a civil lawsuit with the store for battery, false imprisonment, and emotional distress. A year later, Janet alleged she was sexually assaulted by one of the security officers.
She was arrested, brought to the police station. We obtained the booking information where she said she didn't have any need for medical attention, didn't have any injuries. We also obtained the booking photos where you didn't see a bruise on her body or a hair out of place. Subsequently, her lawyer filed a lawsuit against JCPenney and with photographs showing bruises all over her body.
Later, Janet and her kids admitted under oath that her ex-husband David regularly beat her and their children, and that they had lied earlier in the JCPenney deposition. Myth.
Neverland employees witnessed the abuse. Fact. Former Neverland employees admitted to selling salacious stories to tabloids on the witness stand, proving they lied in previous depositions.
They put on 3 guards who had worked at Neverland to say they saw these 3 people molested. One of them, Macaulay Culkin, okay, the actor, all right? Now, those 3 guards had sued Michael Jackson, claiming that he wrongfully terminated them. He had cross-complained, saying that they had stolen property from him. It was the longest civil trial in the history of Santa Maria. They lost their case. Jackson won his cross-complaint. He had $1 million judgment against all of them. There were judicial findings of fraud against all of them. They had gone to the tabloids and sold stories, and the 3 people they say they saw molested, they were my first 3 witnesses. They came in and said they were never touched.
And we've had one witness who just sort of said, all right, I lied about everything.
But hold on a second. Freeze it right there. You've got someone in a court of law saying they've lied about everything previously under oath. What is the consequence for somebody who does that? None. So you can march into the courthouse now and lie or say you've lied in previous depositions, and there's no consequence?
Well, former employees get up on the stand and they say he told the most outrageous story. And it was so graphic. And, of course, everybody went running outside to tell, to report on it. When Tom Mesereau got up and cross-examined this guy and obliterated him.
We didn't hear that, Roger. We didn't hear how he was obliterated. Out here, where Michael Jackson is being literally crucified, the nails have gone into both hands at this point, and the crown is on.
When he was asked, he suddenly could not remember when anything happened, where it happened, how it happened. This man was lying, that he had done all this for money, that he had sold his story to tabloids. He couldn't remember the fact that he had been one of 5 people who'd sued Michael Jackson in 1995 and lost, owed him now $1.6 million.
Hold on a second. Sneddon is calling witnesses who owe Michael Jackson money.
4 witnesses, 5 people. They lost their case. It drove 4 of the 5 of them into bankruptcy. A lot of people who come on the stand and say, look, there are a lot of 12-year-old boys roaming around Neverland. They spend time in Michael Jackson's room. But that's all. That's all anybody really knows. Whether anything else has happened beyond that has been sort of disproved in every cross-examination.
The first time I heard the story about Jackson, his hand was outside the kid's pants. They were asking $100 grand. As soon as their price went up to $500 grand, the hand went inside the pants. So come on.
Several public figures have also stated they were offered money to make false claims about Michael over the years.
And you actually got dragged into this.
A friend of mine told National Enquiry that he knew some family that knew the Jacksons, and they called me on the phone and asked me to come to the hotel. Now, me being a player from the Himalayas, I said, I'm going to go and see what they're talking about so I could take the information back to Mike and Johnny Cochran. I said, I'm here to help Michael. Oh, he said, oh, no. That ain't what we want with you. We heard it that your boy spent nights at the house. We want to know if Michael tampered with him. I just picked him up or touched him in any kind of way. If he did, we got $200,000 for you. I said, huh? I had just got out of prison. I said, man, I can't do that. Can't tell no lie like that. I ain't doing that. He said, you show what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna draw a check up, a contract up, and I'm gonna show you we're finna give you $200,000.
So they want to pay you $200,000 to say that Michael Jackson molested your kids.
Yeah, just touched him or whatever, man. Right. Touched him or anything.
What would you have done if you found out that Michael Jackson molested your kids?
What you think I would have done, man? I'm a gangster. Come on, man. Right. It'd have been a problem.
Oh, the filmmaker says that they were not paid for leaving Neverland.
You don't think that for the interviews that they're doing, they're not getting paid? Because I've been offered 6 figures already for an interview, and I turned them all down. I told them to go fuck themselves. Like, Wade, I'm very disappointed in, because I don't understand. And then and then he's trying to tie my name into this shit, like putting at Aaron Carter. I'm not that guy. I'm not the one.
Myth. Wade Robson testified in 2005 because he hadn't yet realized he had been abused. Fact. Wade has repeatedly changed his reason for testifying during the trial. From not understanding he was being abused, to feeling bad for Michael's children, to Michael coaching him to lie, and to being subpoenaed.
First of all, one thing I want to clear up is that this is not a case of repressed memory in any way. It's been reported in the press some. I never forgot one moment of what Michael did to me. But I was psychologically and emotionally completely unable and unwilling to understand that it was sexual abuse. There wasn't any sense of the truth on the phone. He would role play with me and train me for these scenarios.
Then you have his constantly changing story about how he came to testify in 2005 for Michael Jackson's defense, beginning with, I didn't realize I'd been abused, and then morphing into, well, I did know I'd been abused, but I didn't want to be responsible for orphaning his children, so I decided to testify in his defense, and then morphing into I was threatened and bullied by Michael Jackson and his lawyers. So that story keeps changing.
As far as making anybody testify, I would love for Wade Robson to show me the subpoena he never got.
Do you recall being subpoenaed for the criminal testimony in 2005?
I do.
Do you recall where you were when you were subpoenaed?
I don't.
Do you recall if you were with anyone when you were subpoenaed?
I don't remember how I got the subpoena.
This is just one of many inconsistencies from Leaving Neverland. Another example is that Wade Robson and James Safechuck stated they didn't know each other as children. They claimed that Michael kept them apart and he didn't want them to have girlfriends. But they can both be seen here with Brett Barnes and Michael on the set of the Jam music video. Michael also set Wade up with his niece Brandy. Perhaps the most notable piece of evidence that these men were lying in their documentary is the train station discrepancy. James Safechuck accused Michael of abusing him until 1992. One of the places where he stated the abuse took place was in the train station at Neverland. But this train station wasn't fully constructed until 1994, 2 years after he said the abuse stopped. You might still be wondering why Michael wanted to spend so much time with children in the first place. Why was he interested in the same things they were? Why did he have an amusement park at his home? I'll let Michael explain it in his own words.
People say, why is he always with children? Well, I was raised in a world with adults. When kids were playing in bed sleeping at night, I was up doing clubs. I was doing club dates, 3 in the morning. The striptease would come on after us. You know, we were performing, and we didn't have friends. My brothers were like my friends, but we worked. There was no Christmas, no birthdays, and we were very strict Jehovah's Witnesses. So I'm compensating. Nature makes sure that I compensate for the loss.
Do you think it would be true to say that you found friendship and inspiration in children that you haven't been able to find in adults?
That's absolutely true.
Really?
Yes. Yes. I haven't been betrayed or deceived by children. Adults have let me down. Adults have let the world down.
When you have such intense scrutiny, how do you live any kind of normal life? How do you have any fun outside of your own property?
I don't. I go off property sometime, but not all the time. I create my world behind the gates, because I can't go to the local movie theater down the street or the local park down the street or go pick up ice cream at the market, at the corner store. So you want to create that world behind the gates.
Are the exotic animals, were they for Michael Jackson, the child?
Oh, for me.
Yeah.
And for sharing with others.
Spirit.
For me and sharing with others, because it gave me a chance to do the things I never got to do when I was little. We couldn't go to the movie theaters. We couldn't go to Disneyland. We couldn't do all those fun things. We were on tour. We were working hard, and we enjoyed it. We did enjoy it, but this allowed me to have a place behind the gates with the entire world. Everything that I love is there,
Do you ever outgrow something like that, Michael? Do you ever think, oh, this is silly to have the llamas and the little choo-choo train and the ride?
It's calling God silly if you do that. Because God made all things great and small. So that would be wrong. When other men have their Ferraris or they have their little, if it's an airplane or a helicopter or whatever they find, wherever they find their bliss. And my bliss is in giving and sharing and having simple, innocent fun.
So what is it about children in distress? You mentioned the tsunami relief effort.
Yes.
What is it? Is it your own fatherhood that motivates that?
Caring and reading the Bible, learning about God, Jesus, love. Jesus said, bring on the children, imitate children, be like little children, and to take care of others, to take care of old people. And we were raised with those values. Those are very important values, and my family and I, we were raised with those values, and they continue strong in us today.
Why does it mean so much to you?
I'm just very sensitive to their pain, and I'm very sensitive to the family, the human condition, you know, on that subject. It means a lot to me, and I want to help, do whatever I can to help that, you know.
This video just covers the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the misconstrued details and lies of the Michael Jackson allegations. Michael is no longer here to defend himself, but the legal documents that exonerate him are public record and just a click away.